72% of devs think Valve is a monopoly? What? Valve is a monopoly. At least that's the talking point that seems to be circulating in the PC gaming space as of late. But is it actually a monopoly? Does it fit the definition? Are you going to pick up that can just because some Combine loser told you to? Today, I want to look at Valve's revenue, some lawsuits that they are facing, and most importantly, what the definition of monopoly actually is. So let's get to the other side of this test chamber, solve the puzzle, and answer the question, is Valve a monopoly? First, let's start with some numbers. There's no question that Valve is a titan in the gaming industry, but just how big is their business these days? If you play PC games, you know about Steam. The digital distribution platform has been around since 2003, and it just posted its biggest year ever, with a total gross revenue of around $17 billion in 2025. For some context you didn't ask for, that's about 47.5 million 32GB sticks of G.Skill Trident Z5 DDR5 RAM at today's prices. According to December estimates from Newzoo, the entire PC gaming industry's gross revenue was about $43 billion in 2025. So that means about 41.4% of all PC gaming spending went through Steam. When you add in guesses for how much revenue Valve might have made from sales of hardware like the Steam Deck, they may be closer to $20 billion for 2025. Of course, people play games on other platforms besides PCs. All consoles combined have a revenue of about $45 billion, and another $108 billion comes from mobile gaming. The total estimated revenue for all gaming worldwide in 2025 is $197 billion. We'll return to these numbers in the context of a monopoly later on. Next up, we need to talk about lawsuits. No matter who you are or what business you are in, if you see Valve's level of success, that's going to mean some other people want a piece of the pie. Valve is currently facing several lawsuits, but let's focus on just 3 of them. Keep in mind, I'm not giving legal advice here, just talking about publicly available information as an observer. First, a consumer lawsuit in progress since 2021 in the United States claims that Valve has been overcharging consumers for years. It's important to know that Valve takes 30% of the revenue whenever a game is sold on their platform. The lawsuit claims that this causes developers to charge higher prices to consumers. In addition, Valve has contract language that forces developers not to charge a lower price on a competitor platform, such as the Epic Games Store or GOG. Recently, Valve has pointed out that they were charging 30% on their platform since 2005, back when Steam was still in its infancy. They have some case history to back this up, too. They are leaning on Summers v. Apple, a case that ended in 2013. In the case against Apple, it was claimed that Apple was charging a monopoly price of 99 cents per song with their music distribution platform, iTunes. Apple did this in 2003 and kept that pricing model stable throughout the time that they allegedly became an anti-competitive monopoly. Apple was not penalized in this case, and it seems like Valve is facing a similar situation today, with over 20 years of history charging their 30% commission on game sales. In addition, there's a collective action claim that just got the green light in the UK. Vicky Shotbolt, a digital rights campaigner, has filed a lawsuit at the Competition Appeal Tribunal in London on behalf of up to 14 million Steam users. This case alleges Valve forces developers to sign up to conditions that prevent them from launching their games for better prices or on earlier dates on other platforms, such as the Epic Games Store. As we've discussed, this lawsuit also takes issue with the 30% commission that Valve charges for selling games on their platform. This might be a nice time to mention that Nintendo also charges a 30% commission for selling on their platforms, and they have never faced a class action lawsuit over it. Back to the United States, the third case I want to talk about is a similar but separate lawsuit that also exists, claiming many of the same things. This one is being filed by developers and publishers, not consumers. While the consumer case is generally considered to be at risk of dismissal, the publisher case is still going strong as of recording this video. Now again, let's continue to build our evidence before we form an opinion on whether or not Valve is actually a monopoly. Right now we're still in the investigation phase, and just because lawsuits are filed does not mean Valve will be found liable. But still, if that wasn't enough, maybe I should just read the room. Maybe you think I'm some weird suit and tie with a briefcase in an unreachable chamber, mysteriously warping around and observing the proceedings. After all, back in November, a GamesIndustry.biz story broke that was titled, "72% of devs believe Steam has a monopoly on PC games, according to study." What could be more plain? Developers think it's a monopoly, so therefore it is, right? The study in question was done by Atomic Research, who surveyed 306 industry executives across the UK and the US in May of 2025. To quote the article, 75% of respondents were senior managers of C-suite level, with 77% from studios with more than 50 employees. The study found that for the majority of studios, Steam accounts for over 75% of revenue. However, it also noted that developers have started utilizing other platforms, including the Epic Games Store and the Xbox PC Games Store. Almost half of those surveyed, 48%, have distributed a title to both stores, while 10% have used GOG and 8% have used itch.io. While this was big news across social media, it's just a survey. Whether a company fits the definition of monopoly or not should be an objective, clear-cut answer. If a survey showed that 72% of people feel that potatoes are fruits, the next obvious step would be to examine the definition of fruit, or at the very least, see if it's a potato battery with a sarcastic AI trapped in it. You know, these things do tend to happen from time to time. And speaking of time, Dr. Freeman, I believe it is time for us to turn to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. While there are 4 definitions of monopoly, we are dealing with definition 1. A monopoly is exclusive ownership through legal privilege, command of supply, or concerted action. Specifically, exclusive control of a particular market that is marked by the power to control prices and exclude competition. Mono is a Greek prefix that means one. The rest of the word comes from the Greek polein, which means to sell. Monopoly therefore means one seller. Historically speaking, this has only ever existed in actual practice when the government dictates that there may only be one seller of a particular good or service. For example, the United States Postal Service has a monopoly on the delivery of non-expedited letters and on access to letter boxes that are marked U.S. mail. FedEx and UPS may deliver packages, and of course, you could put a written letter inside of a package, but you cannot legally mail a letter using these carriers. By the way, the inverse of a monopoly is a monopsony, which refers to a situation in which there is only one buyer. An example of this would be a single-payer healthcare system, where the government is the only legal buyer of all medical services and products. Many pharmaceutical companies could sell drugs, but the only buyer they could sell to would be the government. Does Valve meet this standard of exclusive control by operating Steam? I'd say the obvious answer is no. Valve has tons of competitors in the PC gaming distribution space. The Atomic Research study gathered opinions, and as analyst Matt Piscatella said, in other words, 72% don't know what a monopoly is. The Epic Games Store, GOG, Humble Bundle, itch.io, Fanatical, Green Man Gaming, the Microsoft Store, Ubisoft Connect, Battle.net, the EA app, all of these platforms have pros and cons, but people have consistently chosen Steam. That's Valve winning out in a competitive landscape. By the way, if you are enjoying this video, please consider subscribing to the channel for more economic video game analysis. There's lots more on the way, and I thank you very much. Now then, I hear you ask, what about the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890? That prohibits anti-competitive agreements and behavior that attempts to monopolize a particular market. First of all, let me say that in my view, this is one of the most ridiculous pieces of legislation that's ever been passed in the United States. The Sherman Antitrust Act has been used to penalize businesses for raising prices, lowering prices, and even keeping prices the same. It's basically a tool to allow firms to bury their competitors in legal proceedings, which is, wait for it, anti-competitive. It's sicking the government's dogs on businesses that you don't like. After all, as Frank Zappa said, the United States is a nation of laws badly written and randomly enforced. Still, if we look at how the act is supposed to work, in theory, here are some of the situations that we would need to find for a viable antitrust case. Number one, monopoly power in their market. Let's say 90% of all PC gaming. Steam accounts for about 75% of digital PC distribution revenue and about 41.4% of the PC gaming market, as we saw before. Consumers have no viable alternatives. As we've seen, the Epic Games Store and other platforms provide numerous options for those who do not wish to use Steam for whatever reason. Number three, high barriers to entry. Anyone can set up a download service pretty easily. Offering a handful of games to get started is a viable option, and how Steam itself got off the ground. There are not significant legal barriers either, just the usual things like branding, marketing, and contacting interested parties. Number four, exclusionary or abusive conduct. Steam offers their platform, and many developers and publishers choose to use it. The contract to list a game on Steam does not prevent you from listing your game elsewhere. It just enforces price parity. They take the attitude that providing a better service wins out in the end, and so far, that has proven true. Number five, supra-competitive pricing. Monopoly theory spends a lot of energy worrying about evil companies establishing market dominance and then jacking up prices, abusing their supposed monopoly privileges. For example, imagine that this year, because they have 75% of the revenue of all PC gaming distribution, they changed their 30% commission to a 60% commission. They won't, but imagine they did. This would be so-called supra-competitive pricing. In reality, they have had the same pricing model for 20 years and counting, with few major publishers getting discounts down to 20 or even 15% Valve commissions based on volume of sales. So even based on the more subjective criteria of the Sherman Act, Valve is still not a monopoly. What they are is a major player in the PC gaming space, bringing us a great platform, incredible games, and long-term support. To add one more layer, and to show what a silly argument this really is, let's look at the definition of monopoly one more time. Exclusive ownership through legal privilege, command of supply, or concerted action. Specifically, exclusive control of a particular market that is marked by the power to control prices and exclude competition. What is a particular market? Does Valve have a monopoly on entertainment? No. Let's get more specific then. Do they have a monopoly on gaming? No. We saw the numbers earlier in the video. Valve's total revenue is dwarfed just by mobile gaming. Okay, then do they have a monopoly on PC gaming? It doesn't fit the definition, but that's what people are arguing about right now. So let's say that that's still debated. If you can't nail them to the wall for being the big bad guy of PC gaming, though, just go one more layer deep. Do they have a monopoly on handheld PCs? The vast majority of all handheld PCs sold are Steam Decks. Is that a monopoly? Do they have a monopoly not just on handheld PCs, but on Steam Decks? Do they have a monopoly on Counter-Strike 2 online matchmaking services? You can easily change the frame of reference to accuse anyone or any company of monopolizing something. You can learn about the infinite banking concept from lots of different people, but I'm the only one that can teach it to you in my particular way. I have a monopoly on Luke Tatum services. Does Gabe Newell have a monopoly on Gabe Newell Company President services? You see how ridiculous that sounds? So that's my take on the recent monopoly allegations and this sudden rally against the most popular, voluntarily chosen PC gaming digital distribution platform. Even if, in some alternative universe, Steam accounted for 100% of digital PC game sales, it would still not be a monopoly unless the government or Valve itself somehow had the power to prevent competitors from entering the market. Valve isn't a government, and so far, the governments of the world have thankfully not deigned to dictate what companies are allowed to distribute PC games. Legal monopolies, when they are created, lead to lower availability and worse service. Go to any United States Postal Service on Google Maps anywhere in the country and look at their reviews, then come back here and tell me I'm wrong. Valve competes in a relatively open market every single day with every other PC gaming distribution platform. They also compete with other gaming platforms like the Switch 2 and the PlayStation 5. They also compete for your attention and your money with every other service that you might use for entertainment, such as concerts, parks, digital music downloads, video streaming services, theater performances, sporting events, theme parks, books, audiobooks, podcasts, social media, this very YouTube video that you're watching right now, and so on and so on. I'll always be happy to criticize Valve for any bad decisions they make, but my suggestion for now is that we take the feelings of developers that have never cracked open an economics book out of the equation. Thank you so much for watching. I had a ton of fun making this video, and I hope it was helpful and fun. At my company, Perfect Spiral Capital, we're in the business of financial education and dispelling the myths and half-truths that are rampant in financial discourse online. If you'd like to crowbar your way out of the conventional advice that you've heard 100 million times already, then I have a parting gift for you. I've got a free toolkit with 2 full-length video courses and a copy of my Amazon best-selling book, Between the Lies, for free. All I'm asking in exchange is your email address. If that's something you might be interested in, head on over to perfectspiralcapital.com/gamer and check it out. Thanks for watching. I'll hope to see you in the next one.